Boa tarde a todos. Sejam bem-vindos a mais uma Mock Classes. Então, a gente está na última aula dessa trilha de Engenharia, Tecnologia e Inovação. Hoje a gente vai ter uma aula de inovação com a Missouri State University, que é uma universidade que existe desde 1905 nos Estados Unidos, tem mais de 20 mil alunos. O Brad vai falar um pouquinho depois para a gente sobre a Missouri State University. E queria primeiro dar uns recadinhos, né, da Efígie para todos vocês. Então, hoje a gente vai ter no final da trilha o sorteio do prêmio para quem participou de pelo menos 3 aulas com certificado e com check-in dentro do Simpla. Então, no final da aula de hoje, depois das perguntas que vocês vão poder abrir o microfone e fazer as perguntas para o professor Dana, e depois disso a gente vai fazer o sorteio. Então a gente já está compilando todo mundo que ainda que se participou de duas aulas durante essa trilha e hoje conseguiu participar também, vai conseguir entrar no sorteio. Então, sempre lembrando todo mundo também de curtir as redes sociais da Efígie, né? No Instagram, página do Instagram. Toda semana tem um monte de novidades sobre educação internacional, bolsas e os programas da Efígie. E a gente também tem um grupo no Telegram. A gente vai começar a fazer sorteios de brindes e outras novidades também pelo grupo do Telegram. Então, convido todos a vocês participarem do nosso grupo. Na semana que vem, eu também quero convidar todos vocês a um webinar com a doutora Lara, fundadora da Efígie. Ela vai explicar um pouco sobre o programa de aplicação no exterior, passar algumas dicas. A gente vai convidar vários alunos também que aplicaram a partir da Efígie, hoje estão em grandes universidades internacionais no exterior, então fiquem ligados nisso. E agora eu vou passar agora para o professor Brad. So, welcome, Professor Brad.
Thank you, Enrico. It's great to be here. You ready for me to go ahead and start our introduction?
Please, Professor Brad.
Thank you. Well, first of all, we're so glad to join Efígie. We've had so many good experiences in the past speaking with students, and we appreciate the opportunity to share today. My name is Brad Bodenhausen. I'm the Associate Vice President for International Education and Training at Missouri State University. And I want to introduce you to our university briefly, and then I'll introduce you to our featured lecturer today, Professor Dana Frederick, who will share a very interesting discussion with you. First of all, we hope everyone's in good health, and we're hoping for the best for you and your families throughout Brazil. Same challenge we're facing here in the U.S. and so many places in the world, and it's been obviously a difficult and challenging year. And I have a meeting later today that's called Silver Linings, and it's that means every dark cloud has a silver lining, that you can find some good things in the challenges of life. And I was glad they called the meeting under that topic because it forced us to really think about some of the good things that have come out of such a challenging time. And one of those things is the ability to connect this way, to connect through technology, to connect through Zoom, and to still have the opportunities of international education and growing and learning and thinking about your university and career preparation, those kind of things that Efígie helps you with, to be able to do that through technology. So again, we're thankful to be with you and hope everyone's doing well. And I want to share my screen briefly and just share with you a couple of slides and introduce you to Missouri State University. So I'll try to get this set up. Okay, you should be able to see my slide. Thumbs up. All right, very good. So, there's a lot of universities in the United States. And so what does Missouri State University represent? What are we all about? How is that maybe different than some other universities? First of all, we're located in the very center of the United States, right in the exact center part of our country. In fact, if you took the population of the United States and laid it out, the point that would balance is about 90 miles from here, very close to where we're located here in Southwest Missouri. On the screen now, first of all, you'll meet Lucas Goisch. Lucas is a former Brazilian student. He's from the north. He's from the town of Belém in Pará. And he was a prolific taker of selfies when he was here. He had a selfie stick and would take a selfie of about every group he was in. So I happened to find this photo just as a way to introduce you to Missouri State. As you see, we have a high number of undergraduate programs. We're a comprehensive university with 26,000 students. Of those, we have about 1,500 international students. We have programs that certainly are academic programs, but we also offer a lot of non-credit and short-term special language and culture programs. And we've had students from Brazil very interested in taking part in those programs. Students from China and other parts of the US as well, but particularly students from Brazil who've come here for short-term programs, and is a good way to introduce to the university. Every university tries to think about, okay, what's different? How do we set ourselves apart from other universities? And there are 4 photos here that we think represent some of the things that Missouri State is particularly focused on. One, we have outstanding facilities, and you'll see some of that in the background behind Mr. Frederick's slide shortly. We have a high level of support from our administrative staff, and we provide a lot of support for international students, to the point of picking up students at the airport when they first arrive, helping with all of the housing arrangements, and making sure you have Wi-Fi and internet hookup and your phone service, and all those things have to be in place really before you consider starting to study. And we realize it's such a big step to come internationally for your education. So we put a big focus on that through our International Services Office. It's also an opportunity for cultural sharing. You know, as I mentioned, we're located in the middle of the US. It's not like being in Miami or New York or Los Angeles or Sao Paulo or Rio, a city that, you know, that's multicultural and has people from all over the world. We have people from all over the world, but it's mostly with our university campus. And so students do well here, but they want students that want to come and share. They don't want to be necessarily in a place where they can only speak Portuguese or they can only speak Spanish. They want to be in a place that challenges them to learn and grow and share their culture with others in our community. This is a good place for that, because people are very interested in learning about other parts of the world and other cultures. And you'll hear in the presentation today, I think, an idea of how we focus on practical experience. We really put an emphasis on not just what you learn in the book, but also how you put that experience into practice in everyday life. Our business college is who's represented today. Professor Dana Frederick is in our management department. He has an MBA degree. He's an entrepreneur and a small business owner. And he's going to talk to you about entrepreneurship and innovation. And he works in the College of Business. And so just to give you a quick idea of our College of Business, we have a number of different academic programs. It's our largest college of our academic colleges on our campus, around 5,000 students. And you see here, we have areas of focus in information technology and cybersecurity, in finance and general business and management, which is the area where Mr. Frederick focuses. We also have marketing and the School of Accountancy. He can talk more about what he teaches in terms of organizational behavior and other courses like that, and particularly today to focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. I also want to briefly introduce Juliana Di Francesco. Juliana is on the meeting with us today as well. She's there in Brazil, located in Sao Paulo, and she's an admissions rep for Missouri State University. So any questions you have about our university, you can certainly contact her, and you can contact me as well. But right now we want to get to the lecture because Professor Frederick has put together some interesting thoughts for you. We hope you have questions. We hope you find it interesting and valuable. And we hope you remember Missouri State University when you're thinking about those opportunities to potentially study in the U.S. So I will turn off my screen share and turn it over to Dana Frederick.
All right. Thank you for that. Here we go. Thank you for that introduction, Brad. Okay. Let's see if this works. All right. Everybody see the creativity and innovation slide? Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. As Brad has discussed, I'm going to pop open my chat real quick. So it is, there we go. All right. So I have it available as well. As Brad said, I teach here in the College of Business. I teach principles of management and entrepreneurship. What does that mean? Our principles of management class is our introductory management course that every student in the College of Business has to take. And we also have several other non-business majors take that course as well. We go through concepts like hiring. What is really management? What do different levels of managers do, from CEO down to a first line worker? What is the expectations? What does supervision look like? We get into teamwork. We get into personality and individual behavior, because being a successful leader and a manager, because we talk about how those two are separate, you really have to understand your team and how your team responds to you and directions you give them. And so that's really our management course that I teach. And then there are several entrepreneurship classes. One of them is an introductory course to entrepreneurship. A course that I'm teaching this semester, or a couple of them are actually. One is Entrepreneurship 202, which is part of a certificate. It's 201, 202, 203. In that particular certificate, we are teaching you how to start an e-commerce business. Specifically, we're teaching you how to start an e-commerce business on the Amazon platform. So for us here in the US, Amazon.com is one of our primary e-commerce tools. If you're going to buy pretty much anything, most people go to Amazon first. Now, every region of the world is a little different, whereas I know you guys have Amazon, but it may not be as big as the .com. And some of you may buy off of .com versus Amazon Brazil. Whereas I don't honestly shop off Amazon Europe or Canada or Mexico. I stay on the .com itself. So we walk you through, what does it look like to start an actual business of you selling through Amazon.com platform. And as Brad has talked about with this last year dealing with COVID, it's been a challenge for a lot of small businesses because, well, people weren't traveling. People weren't always going to, for us, Walmart, the grocery store. They were buying online. And without platforms like Amazon, and Walmart.com and Target.com and stuff like that, examples like that, people would have struggled. Some of those businesses would have struggled as well. And so when we talk about creativity and innovation, we'll talk about even how this pandemic has forced a lot of businesses to be a little bit more creative in how they do business. You've probably seen that down in Brazil, how small businesses are having to adapt just to survive during a lockdown. We've had to do the same thing here. And so we have the certificate. I also teach this semester, we have a class called Entrepreneurship 384, which is a feasibility class. We actually bring in 3 clients from our local small business development center. The students are paired up, put in teams, and they work with those clients to help evaluate whether or not an idea is feasible, or let's be honest, whether or not it's a good idea, whether or not the owner of that idea, the client, should progress, take it to the next step. And so we give our students truly some hands-on experience working with the client, diving into research in terms of what does the market look like? If a physical building is needed, what does that look like? How much space? What does the design layout of the building look like? What does the rent look like? We look at finances, we look at marketing, we look at the customers, we look at logistics. The students dive into all aspects, all done in one semester, 16 weeks. And it's intense, but it's a fun class. And the students that come out of that class will tell you it's one of their favorite classes because of, we're not in a textbook all day. We're doing what we're talking about. We're having them work with the clients to really determine if this business is a good idea. And so I'll talk about that course a little bit more because as we get into creativity and innovation, one of the things we are doing here at the university in the College of Business is we know we need to adapt as well. We know that we need to adapt for you guys, meaning if you come to Missouri State and you get a degree in entrepreneurship, the faculty that teach in the entrepreneurship program, we don't want you to sit with a textbook all day long and say, here's what entrepreneurship is. Our philosophy is we get you into hands-on activities, experiential learning, clients, projects, audits, where you are doing what an entrepreneur should do. And so one of the things that we are looking at is I'm actually one of the clients in the class. Not me personally, not for my small business, but for the student businesses we want to start. One of the things we want to do is create a student-run business. So our philosophy is for the students, by the students. We are using the class with student teams to come up with a product business idea. They're doing all the research to see if it's feasible or not. Once their project comes to an end at the end of the semester, we are then going to decide whether or not we want to progress, whether or not we want to take that next step as a university and say, yes, we want to do this in the program. We want to take this project and make it happen for the students because we want to provide student employment. We want to provide internships. We want to provide them hands-on experience. And all of that leads to, depending on what the student wants to do when they graduate, a better job or better understanding how to run their own business. So kind of give you an idea, right now we are looking at doing care packages on campus. One of the things that students have expressed is just getting a little gift in the mail from mom and dad or grandparents or aunt and uncle. And so we are having the students do a survey and see what that may look like. So when it comes to creativity and innovation, our program is saying, look, we need to do a pivot. We need to change. We need to look different. And for us to look different means we want to have business opportunities for the students to work in so they get the knowledge and experience they need to where they can be successful, either helping a small business or running their own. And so that's what our program looks like. And so this whole past year with COVID has really tested people, has really tested businesses, small and large. Like I said, I know you've probably seen it down in your area. We've seen it here in Springfield too, where people have had to adapt. And that's really what creativity and innovation is about. It's about adapting. And to be honest, my philosophy that I have in my business, that I tell my students as they start businesses, the day your business stops learning, stops evolving, stops being creative and innovative, is honestly the first day your business starts to die. And we saw that over the last year, where several businesses had to close their doors because they didn't adapt. And that's really what creativity and innovation is about, is adapting. Okay. My small business, I actually have an e-commerce business through the Amazon platform as well. So I personally do that. When I teach the certificate, in terms of engaging students and helping them understand that they can do this themselves, it's not coming from hearsay. It's not a textbook. I do that as well. And to be honest, over the last year, even for my business, there have been challenges with COVID. And that's where creativity and innovation comes into play. That's where adapting comes into play. Having to pivot comes into play. One of my target markets is Disney. I target people going to Disney, whether it's Disney World, Disneyland, for vacation. Well, those closed. California, Disneyland, just opened up a week ago after being closed for 1 year, and they're at 15% capacity, which is nothing for Disneyland. Disney World in Florida closed down for a few months and slowly has opened back up, and they're about 30% capacity right now. But for me, my private label, my personal products that I have targeting folks going to those attractions took about a 94% hit. Sales dropped approximately 94%. So that meant I had to pivot if I wanted to survive. And I did. And so we'll talk about that throughout today's presentation. But we're going to look at creativity and innovation. So what is it? What is creativity? What is innovation? And how do we put those things into action? I'm going to jump to the next slide because it talks about some of those definitions and really what it is. So when you decide on a product, right? Creativity is an idea. Innovation is taking that creative idea and turning it into a physical product or process. And that's part of the entrepreneurship process as well, and then commercializing it. But when we look at creativity, one of the main things that we need to look at, or two of the things that we need to look at is it novel or useful? I think that's personally, I think that's a fascinating question. Is it novel and or useful? And if you want in the chat, if somebody wants to answer, of those two, do you think there is one that is more important? Is it more important to be novel or useful, or are both equally important? I'll give you a second if anybody wants to type in on the chat. Novel or useful, which one of those, or are they equally important? Okay, think about it for a second. All right, so we got both. And that is a great answer. And honestly, I would have probably answered the same way if I was sitting in your shoes, that both are important. Useful, that's a good answer too. Let's look at an example. Okay, with COVID, I'm gonna bring up this last year. So I have several buddies that are in the e-commerce business as well. And so I had them just 4 or 5 items, products that are good sellers, but because of COVID, because of lockdowns that everybody's experiencing globally, what have we seen an increase in demand in, and why? Okay. Puzzles. You guys ever put puzzles together? A puzzle with 500 pieces, with 1,000 pieces. I have a buddy that sells a puzzle that has 42,000 pieces in it. I'll be honest, I don't know if I want to put a puzzle together that has 1,000 pieces in it, let alone 42,000. But puzzles became a very sought after, high demand item. Now, if you look at novel and useful, is a puzzle novel? Is it new? No, not at all. Puzzles have been around for a long time. But is it useful? Absolutely. Because you have folks that could not go anywhere for weeks or months. In some situations, like in Brazil right now, you're on a lockdown for another week or so. So what do you do with your spare time? So a lot of our older population and even kids, families with kids, they chose to utilize and purchase puzzles because they had time. And so we saw a spike in demand for puzzles. It's not a novel new idea, but it was very useful. It was fulfilling a need that people wanted. It was entertainment for them. And to be honest, that's why useful is actually more important than novel. You bought a puzzle? Absolutely. Puzzles are still sought after, and it's crazy. Kayaks, small boats, plastic boats. You go down the river, you go down a pond, even in the ocean. Kayaks spiked. It's not a new idea. It's not a new product, but it was useful because in a lockdown, people couldn't go to the gym, right? They couldn't go exercise. So what they did is they turned to outdoor recreation. And so you saw a lot of, not just in kayaks in general, but kayaks spiked, but a lot of outdoor recreation activities and tools, you saw those spike as well because people wanted to get outside. Okay. Now, everything is dependent upon what you're allowed to do. I saw some comments. Yeah, we barely had anything to do. I mean, for the first time, my family and I have 2 kids, ages 12 and 9. We got out and we rode bikes every day. That's something we normally would not do because pre-COVID, right? My kids were in activities all the time. We had baseball, we had basketball, we had track, swimming. And so we were always doing something. But when COVID hit and there was a lockdown, basketball went away, baseball went away. And so we went biking. And so you also saw a spike in bicycles. And so the idea behind this is when you're coming up with ideas, when you're trying to pivot, when you're trying to come up with the next fidget spinner, right? Let's be honest. Was the fidget spinner novel, useful, or both? I mean, I've got my own opinion. I'm curious what you guys think. The fidget spinner, yeah, pretty novel. Very novel, right? A lot of folks, I meant to bring one, but a lot of folks, there you go, Brad. If you're a teacher in the classroom, it wasn't novel or useful. It was annoying because kids were constantly spinning them and you could hear the ball bearings roar through the classroom, or some of them even lit up, right? And so it was a novel idea. Now, there might be some science behind it, but from a business standpoint, it's come and gone. It was novel. It was here for what, 3 months, 6 months, and now you can't give away fidget spinners. There are companies with pallets and pallets of fidget spinners sitting there collecting dust that they won't do anything with. So the novel idea isn't always the best direction to go. Useful is. Somebody mentioned tents right now, like camping tents. Absolutely. Getting outdoors, very expensive. Something in the US, something that is very popular and has been for the last year, private pools, swimming pools. Because a lot of our community swimming pools, they're all shut down because of COVID, right? So a swimming pool, again, is not novel, but it's useful. And so an inflatable swimming pool that maybe is 12 feet, 15 feet in diameter, that's 3 or 4 feet deep, depending on the pool, it's highly sought after right now. And from a business standpoint, if you can find a supply of them, you will be able to make some good money on them. Okay. But as your business evolves, you'll learn that it's important to make sure that the idea itself is useful, right? Because we want it to stay. We want it to stick. It may not be with us forever because, again, we have to continue to evolve. But that novel idea, it's going to come and go, all right? Ooh, let me click over. There you go. So again, some of the definitions: creativity is the creation of something novel and or useful. We talked about that. Again, I want it to be, personally, I would want it to be useful. If there is some novelty to it, some excitement to it, that will help. But the usefulness, that's what the driving factor will be. And then innovation. It's taking that creative idea, it's turning into a commercialized product and or a process, okay? And then entrepreneurship, as it says, we're going to take the next step, and now we're going to have a physical product, or we're going to become more efficient in a process. But if it's a product, we're going to get it out there on the market, and we're going to get it into the hands of our consumers or potential customers. That's one of the big things we need to do, is get it into the hands of our customers. If the last year hasn't taught us, or has taught us, one thing, it is we need to pivot. We need to change. We need to continue to be creative and innovative. We need to come up with some new, novel, but useful ideas. Useful being the emphasis. Get them manufactured, get them into the hands of our consumers. But it's got to be a product that they want. Now, something to keep in mind is it doesn't have to be a brand new idea. We can adapt. We can change existing ideas. It doesn't look as good. It doesn't look as sexy, as exciting, but tweaking, adjusting, making an existing product better, more useful, is just as creative as coming up with Facebook originally. Okay, you're just looking at it from a different perspective. So the question is, what does innovation look like, especially to you? For us, here in Springfield, Missouri, innovation right now for a lot of small businesses, let's look at it from that perspective. It means getting a little bit more technology, understanding. I'm going to target the small restaurants, the mom and pop restaurants. Over this past year, they've had to become innovative because, like your city, our city shut down a lot of the dine-in facilities. we could not eat in our restaurants. So their options were takeout and or delivery. But a lot of those small mom and pop restaurants, they weren't set up for delivery, or when I say delivery, them delivering themselves or using the delivery services such as, right, Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, Postmates, or whatever other services perhaps you have that may differ from us. When I go over to China, China's been doing that. We have a sister campus over there. China's been very innovative. And I'll be honest, I think longer than we have when it comes to delivery. So a pandemic like this, I don't think had an effect on their restaurant industry like it did ours. We had to adjust and adapt immediately. At least a lot of the restaurants here in Springfield. When I go to Dalian, to our sister campus city, they've had delivery with almost every small restaurant over there. And so we have to continue, again, to adapt and be innovative and be creative. And that is one little way. I mean, is a delivery service, is that new? No, it's new to the restaurant. The technology is probably new to the restaurant. The concept may be new to the restaurant and the owner, but restaurant delivery services have been there for years. But part of the problem that as an entrepreneur, we have to get over is the fear, right? Fear plays a big role in this. It's not that they didn't know about Grubhub or DoorDash or Uber Eats, but there was a fear of, well, I don't know enough about it, so I don't want to learn a new system and implement that in my restaurant. But what COVID did, it got people over that fear very quickly, okay? And that has pushed a lot of restaurants, especially in Springfield, to change how they do business. There are a lot of restaurants in Springfield that they probably will not open up their dining rooms to customers anymore because they have adapted, they've become innovative and creative on how they do business, and delivery service and takeout are dominating their business right now. They don't need dine-in. And what does that do for a business? If you don't require or have a dine-in facility, you don't have the overhead for what it takes to run and manage that dine-in facility. You can use that space for other things. Chick-fil-A. I don't know if you have Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is very masterful in their delivery service, in their drive-through system. They surpass all drive-in restaurants. When I say drive-in, we're talking about, between a McDonald's and a Burger King and a Taco Bell. Anybody with a drive-through, Chick-fil-A is up here. They're the king of drive-through. They know how to get a customer's order taken in, a customer through that drive-through process in seconds compared to others that struggle to get you through in minutes. But Chick-fil-A, their dining area is shut down right now, just like most other restaurants. But they've converted that to a prep area for all of their takeout and to-go orders. So they're still utilizing that space. It's actually allowing them to expand their business in other ways pre-COVID they may have never attempted to do. Okay, so we've got to be innovative, meaning we've got to continue to adapt. We've got to continue to change. So when we go through this innovation process, what does that mean? Does that mean we have to come up with something brand new? No. Does that mean we have to be the answers to everything? You as the owner, the entrepreneur? No. The beauty is we have potential product ideas all around us. Go talk to your friends. Go talk to your family members. What issues are they having right now? We call them pain points. If somebody has a pain point, if somebody's having a problem, if there is a need not being met, that's causing a pain point for somebody. That could be a potential area for a new creative and innovative product and or service. So just because you may tell yourself, well, I'm not a creative person. I'll be honest, I don't think I'm a creative person. But let's be honest. When you're coming up with a new product, does it matter what you think, what you want, or what the customer, potential customer wants? We've got to ask them. That's really what we've got to understand and grasp. I don't have to be creative. I need to listen to customers out there. I need to listen to people's problems and help solve those problems. And that's where I'm going to get my creativity in the solutions. Okay. So you don't have to be a super creative person to come up with new innovative ideas. We just have to take time to listen. And that's important. Because a lot of us, I struggle with this in my classroom. My wife has told me I need to stop and listen. But sometimes when there's just no sound in the classroom, students get a little antsy. They get a little uncomfortable. But as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, we need to listen. That listening process that will help us be more creative and be more innovative, come up with new ideas, new product ideas, or come up with some adaptations to current and existing products. So here's what kind of the innovation process looks like as a whole. All right, we've got to come up with a product, come up with ideas, listen, talk with folks. Okay. And then we're going to go through the process where we're going to go through experimentation. Right? We need to challenge not only ourselves, but we need to listen to the customers. We need to figure out if we create or come up with an idea that we want to do, process or product, will it add value to somebody else? That's important. When it comes to early adopters, are we the first company, first person doing this, or are there others out there? Because in marketing, there's a lot of folks that will say it's actually better to not be the early adopter, the first to market. It's better to be that company, that product that follows the early adopters, that follows that product that's already in existence, and you make a change to it to make it better. You make an improvement. Okay. Then we'll continue down this process. We'll look at the ecosystem. We'll look at the iterative. We'll look at the process where we look at the iteration and we look at the idea and we look at, okay, it's not always about just the product or the idea, but at the end of the day, is it something people want? Because that's important. Is there value there? Because that's important. So the value proposition. When we get into creativity innovation, again, we look at something that's novel and useful, preferably useful. Novel is just a bonus. But when we're looking at and evaluating ideas themselves, hey, should we do this? Is there value there to the customers? And that's what we are looking at. So some things that, as we've seen, go through or come out because of COVID, some things that are valuable to customers. One of the big things that a lot of us have seen, and in the US, as an example, has been hard to get, is a lot of shelf-stable, long-term food storage products. And a lot of that is freeze dried. We've seen a significant demand, a spike in that, because people are seeing a significant value in that. There's a pain point, as it says right here, right? There's a pain point that people are scared that there may not be food available. And so they're looking for long-term situations. I don't know if Brazil experienced it like we did with toilet paper, right? Y'all ran out of toilet paper, or at least the stores did. We did too. Yeah, right. Why? Because people got scared. So rumor has it, it actually started in Australia. This whole rumor, right? The whole rumor was Australia couldn't get toilet paper to its country because it was all imported. And that started this wildfire rumors of, oh my gosh, there is no toilet paper. Now, there is toilet paper and there is plenty of it. The problem was the logistics, right? The logistics of getting it trucked, train, boat, however, to wherever it needed to go. That was the problem. The logistics got backed up. Transportation got backed up. But it created this fear. And toilet paper became this commodity, right? I'm going to give you 3 sheets of toilet paper. No, I'm just kidding. But it was a pain point for people. It was that fear, right? It was the fear of, oh my gosh, if we're going to do this lockdown and I'm going to have to stay at my house for the next 3 months, how am I going to survive? And so people just bought items. They bought puzzles. They bought whatever they could get delivered. They bought toys. They bought tools and items that they could use by just going out in their community, riding bikes, playing games in their yard, games with their kids, web cameras. Who would have known that web cameras would have been in short supply? They were. Because guess what we were all doing? Zooming. We had to figure out and be creative on how we did classes. Your high school may have had to experience that, where they had to change their modality. We had to change our modality. We had to go from all pretty much primarily seated classrooms to everything online for most of spring of 2020 and all of summer. Well, when you do that, and you do Zoom classes, you do live instruction, you do recording of your lectures, you've got to have the web camera technology, as I point to it, right? You've got to have that technology available to do it. And there was a fear that it would not be available. And there was a shortage of it. Okay. So is there a value? What is that value? When a problem is presented to you, now we got to figure out how to solve it. When the local swimming pools are closed, and my guess is ours will be in this area as well, at least the cities, people still want to swim in the summer. What do? They install swimming pools. They buy above ground swimming pools. They buy what we'll call like the disposable swimming pool. You have it for a season. You get it from Walmart or even Amazon, and it's above ground. It's 3 or 4 feet in height, 6, 8, 12 feet in diameter, and your kids playing it or you playing it, and you have fun, or my kids playing it. And at the end of the year, maybe you throw it away. But that swimming pool has a lot of value. The problem of not having access to the pool created a problem, and now we need to figure out how to solve that problem. You can't get, I was talking to a pool installer that does below and above ground pools here locally, and he's 2 to 3 years out on appointments. If you called him today, he'll tell you 2 to 3 years. I'll get to you. To me, that is crazy. there's that big of a problem, the solution is there, but there's not enough people to help solve that problem. Again, a way you can help. If you're looking to adapt as a business, perhaps you may have to diversify in some of your products or services. Right now, if you're looking at, man, it would be awesome to generate some income. Have you ever thought about opening up an Amazon store? Have you gone through the process? Our certificate that we have, anybody can take it. We designed it that way. We designed it so if there's anybody here in the community or anywhere else, because it's an online certificate, completely online, we designed it to where we can help with that problem and provide a solution wherever you're at. I have several friends that saw a problem, went through the e-commerce route, and they're doing very well, 6-7 figures in sales. They're solving a problem. All right, I got a question for you. As of right now, I'm gonna preface it by saying U.S., but I want you to guess. I know we're not sitting next to each other right now, so I'll take that into consideration. But in the United States, of all retail sales right now, how much of those retail sales are done online? What percentage? From 0 to 100, what percentage are done online? I'm just curious. Just throw some numbers out there in the chat. 60 is an answer. Too high. 40 is still too high. Isn't that crazy? Now, COVID is starting to skew that number. We're getting there, right? 25 is getting closer. Normally pre-COVID, it was 10%. 10% of all retail sales in the United States were done online. Now, majority of that 10%, something like 80 to 90%, were done through Amazon.com. But 10% of retail sales in the US are done online. Now that number is slowly creeping up. It went to 12. Now during COVID and early spring, that skyrocketed because you also have Target, Walmart. They started investing a ton of money into their .coms. See, they pivoted, they changed. They understand that the new norm is online shopping. You understand that the new norm, perhaps the standard, is online shopping. And so that means there's opportunity. There's opportunity for businesses to come into the market to fulfill those needs of people shopping for items, whether it's items that are domestic to you in your city, or it's items that are imports from other countries that are in demand in your area, in your region. The reason why I'm going down that rabbit trail is to say there is opportunity for you guys. There's opportunity out there to start a small business, to start an e-commerce business where you are serving and serving a need, solving a problem, providing a service for folks because maybe they're scared, or maybe they just don't have the time to go to the local grocery store and they would just rather order it online. A myth about online shopping? Or I'll ask you, why do you guys shop online? What is the reasoning? Why do you shop online versus go into a physical store? Do you go because of it's cheaper to shop online? It's less expensive? Is it more convenient? I mean, there's other reasons too, but generally folks argue back and forth. A little bit of both. A lot of marketplaces, at least here in the US, our .coms are not less expensive. Most of them have actually charged more. Easier to find things, absolutely. You have more access to more diverse products. Convenient and prices. A lot of times, the myth about convenience and prices is we will give up that convenience, or we will take advantage of the convenience and give up a little bit of pricing, right? We'll pay a little bit more for that convenience. Hey, if I don't have to go get it, or man, I can't find it locally, but I can find it online and I can have it tomorrow. We have an Amazon fulfillment center that's being built. And so we'll have 2-hour delivery. Heck, I can have it in 2 hours, but I may pay a couple dollars more, right? That's solving a problem. Amazon's just the big giant right now that is taking advantage of this opportunity, but you will continue to see companies adapt and grow, become creative, become innovative as this pandemic even continues on. And as we come out of the pandemic, a lot of those changes won't go away because they've seen the benefit of those changes. They've seen that, oh my gosh, we can do deliveries. We can do online orders. We can do curbside pickups. We can do all of these things now that we didn't think we could do a year ago. But because of the pandemic, it kind of twisted our arms a little bit. So just because, to kind of wrap it up a little bit, just because you think you may not be creative, that's okay. You don't have to solve all the world's problems, but I want you to take somebody's problem and come up with a solution for it. And honestly, a lot of those problems have pretty simple solutions. Here's what I would say. Here's what I would say for you to do. A little assignment for the next week. All right, you don't have to do it for the week, but even over the next 24 hours, take a little pad of paper and write down everything you touch, physically touch every day. That's one thing you could do. And if you look at that list, you could be like, man, something's going to stick out and say, I can make that better. Or another list you could do, have your family and friends do this. When they're shopping online and they can't find something, have them write that down on that list. Hey, I couldn't find this blank, this item. Because that means that's an opportunity. There's a problem there. There's potential market not being served. And perhaps you can fulfill the needs of that market and provide that product. Okay. I'll stop the share here. But I appreciate you guys listening. I'd be happy to share my information, email information. If anybody wants to reach out, send me an email, has a question. There are other slides, but I don't necessarily want to bore you with those. I understand how slides are, but the whole idea behind this is when you're thinking about new ideas and trying to be creative, think of the usefulness and the novelty. Focus on the usefulness. Again, don't be the fidget spinner. It was novel. It was cool for like 3 minutes. Think of usefulness. And right now, in today's society and around the world, folks just need useful items, which means They need products they can use on an everyday basis. And who would have known that a puzzle would have been a useful item? Because normally puzzles are purchased in the winter times when people can't go outside when it's cold. But people bought a lot of puzzles, and they're still buying puzzles. Questions, thoughts? I'd be happy to answer anything. Whatever you want to talk about, either innovation, running a business.
Well, I would like to thank first Professor Dan. It was really interesting. So I will open now for questions. So I invite you, everyone to join, to open your videos and microphones and ask some questions. You can also type or write in the chat, and I will read for Professor Dana. So I just have a personal question. You have said a lot about feelings to get insights from new ideas or new products. And I was thinking about the boom of data science and data analysis. So I would like to ask your personal opinion if it's more is useful to use data to get insights, or you just think it's just a boom and the feeling is the most important thing?
Personally, I think it's a little bit of both. So for my e-commerce, selling products through example, Amazon.com, I actually take all feelings out of it. Like, it doesn't matter what I want to sell. What I think, oh my gosh, this packet of Post-it notes, it's so cool. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I honestly think about it. I need to look at the data in that particular situation to figure out what customers really want and what they're buying. Mm-hmm. And that's how I'm going to that's how I'm going to be successful as a business, is providing the products that they want. And in a marketplace like Amazon or Etsy or eBay, which are pretty global businesses, may not be as much as in the US, but those tools, those platforms give you a lot of data about your customers and what they want. And that's really key, is to dive into, and the data is important. It really is to figure out what they want and use a lot of that data to solve those problems and to be as successful as possible. Because if you go off your feelings, if I went off my feelings, to be honest, you'd probably fail a lot more. I would probably fail a lot more. Failure is not a bad thing, right? We're going to have home runs. Anybody play baseball? Right?
Yeah,
yes.
Actually,
I have played baseball analogies, right? In business, sometimes we're going to hit singles. We're going to have product ideas. We're going to be successful with ideas, and they're going to be singles, right? They're not going to be fancy. They're not going to be pretty. We're going to hit some doubles and triples. Rarely we're going to hit some home runs like we see in baseball, right? We see a home run go over the fence, out of the park. From a business perspective, you're going to have those home runs, but on rare occasions. And so we need to focus on the things that aren't as glamorous. Focus on those singles. Use the data and provide the customers what they're searching for. And that's what I say. Come up with ask your family and friends. And I say that wholeheartedly. I tell my students here to do the same thing, because their question is, well, if I start a business, what should I sell? Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, I don't know what you should sell, because what I want and what you want are two separate things. I want you to go figure out what the customers need or what their pain points are and solve mm-hmm. those problems. And so that data, it all comes back to data. Feelings and emotions, from my perspective, what I think or feel, that's irrelevant to being successful.
Right. We have also a question from Isabel. Isabel do you want to open your microphone and ask, or we just can read it?
Oh yeah, no, I'm reading it right now. So, but yeah, she Isabel, if you want to come on it, absolutely.
Okay, so she said that she understands that technology is generally really helpful, but at the same time, if innovation is bringing new ways to solve people's problems, wouldn't be promoting laziness. So could this not in the future bring greater problems to us, related to us not doing things for ourselves, since we have something to do that for us?
Absolutely. Oh yes, I mean, that's so in my little network of friends in the e-commerce world, we talk about this all the time, that customers are becoming really lazy. You hit it on the head. You hit the nail on the head, because they can go to their little cell phone, right?
Yeah.
And they can go to a platform and be like, I want lunch delivered in now. And 10 minutes, 15, 30 minutes, it shows up at their doorstep. They don't have to leave their chair. They don't have to leave their comfy couch. And so, like, physically, I think we will see some physical problems and perhaps mental health problems occur because folks aren't getting out. They're not leaving their apartments. They're not leaving their houses. They're just sitting behind a computer or behind their cell phone, and they're placing orders. And that's all they're doing, right? You can watch movies from your phone. You don't have to go to a movie theater anymore to get that experience. And so, yeah, it is. It's probably encouraging laziness from a customer standpoint. I would say, for me personally, I don't buy everything online. I actually like physically going into a store. That's my preference. So right now we can do that, but that doesn't mean I can find everything in our local stores. I mean, Springfield has 5 supercenter Walmarts in the city, and we have like 8 smaller Walmarts in the city. And so if they are out, and we have a couple other grocery stores, but it's primarily a Walmart. So if Walmart is out, it's most likely not going to be available. And so that means, yeah, I'm going to have to go online. But yeah, technology itself, absolutely. I mean, you guys, for example, my kids are 12 and 9 compared to when I was a kid, when Brad was a kid. Rico, when you were a child, right? We didn't have all the video game consoles that my kids have now, all that technology. We didn't have the Nintendo Switch. Our fancy thing was the Game Boy. Woo! Right? 2D, no color. But yeah, technology is creating a more lazy society. So the question is, what are you going to do to combat that?
Yeah, I think we have also apps for fitness, so you can train and you can work out looking at someone at the video. I know a lot of people that are doing home workouts, do it to that. So I think in a parallel way, it's also creates a new market. I think you see now a lot of fitness gurus over there. So you also have this opportunity. I know a guy that creates a program that you have to exercise in 10 minutes every day. So he's like selling also a lot this program. So I believe that.
No, I agree with you. Absolutely. And I think it's kind of that double-edged sword. From a product side, technology is teaching us or creating more lazy folks. But from a technology side, you have the ability to create an app that says, okay, you can't get to the gym right now. Here's a 10-minute exercise. Do it every day, right? Do it from the comfort of your own home, from your office. It plays on your computer, your cell phone. Go. And to me, that's amazing. And it is still solving a problem that folks have, right? A pain point of either not wanting to go to the gym, maybe because they're embarrassed, or they just can't go to the gym physically because heck, you're in lockdown. You know?
So thank you, Isabel, for your question. If anyone wants to do another question, please just open your videos. So Alessandro, please.
Hi. How should novice entrepreneurs deal with failure?
Failure is always tough, right? It's hard. But personally, I think we all have to go through and experience it. We're all going to fail at some point. So just drill that into your head. You're going to fail. You're going to have, go back to the baseball analogy, right? You're going to have strikeouts. Look at some of the best baseball players. What are their at-bat percentages? 300%, right? So in a grand scheme of things, they're not very successful. They're getting 3 hits out of 10. Not very successful. But in baseball, that's great success. So I want you to have a very similar attitude that you're going to have a lot of strikeouts. But I also think that makes you a stronger person. And it also helps build your skin thickness. And that you're going to be more willingness. You're going to have more willingness to kind of take that leap and try new things. Now, I want you to do it with caution still. I don't want you to go and lose tens of thousands of dollars. But I want you to take baby steps. And if that means you try something and so you invest $100 or $50 US and it doesn't work, in the grand scheme of things, it's $50 US. It's still a lot of money, but I can still pay my mortgage every month, right? So I want you to keep trying. It's trial and error. I'll give you a good example. So tomorrow, I'll jump on a plane. I'm going to go down to Dallas, and there's a trade show happening. Usually I go twice a year to a trade show where I talk to vendors. I talk to manufacturers, suppliers, wholesalers, distributors across every possible spectrum from toys to home goods, whatever you want, they're there. And part of going there is to come up with new potential product ideas. And I'll be honest, I've bought stuff that have been failures. But I try and buy in a way to where I'm not buying 1,000 units. I'm buying a case. I'm buying 2 cases. And I test them. And for me, that's important. If I fail in a test, I'm not upset. It was a test. There wasn't a ton of money invested. And I move on to the next idea. All right, scratch that one, cross that one off the list. We're moving to the next. But failure is going to happen. And the sooner we can embrace that, use that, learn from it, man, the better off we're going to be, the better off you're going to be. And when you see that next opportunity in front of you, you're going to look at it from a different perspective, right? And you may be like, oh my gosh, you may see something that others don't see because they're too scared to fail. And you said, oh, and you're looking at it from a clear perspective because you failed. But you're like, no, that's a good idea or a good potential product idea, whatever the case may be, and you go for it. So don't be afraid. Push forward. We all fail, right? Just like I tell my students in class, if you fail a test, that doesn't mean I'm going to judge you any different way. I'm not going to judge you and look at you differently just because you failed a test in my class. Right? Some of you aren't test takers. It's just reality. Everybody learns a different way. And so part of my job is to figure out how each of you learn and try and provide you the tools to be successful. Right? So don't Failure is going to happen. All right. Don't be afraid of it. Tackle it head on. It's okay.
Okay. So it's all about being resilient.
Absolutely. You've got to figure out how to bounce back. I think COVID has proven that to us, right? Do you have a lot of small businesses in your area that have closed down?
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Some of them have closed down. Some of them have figured out how to open their doors again, provide a product or service to get customers either to come in or get that product or service delivered to the customers. And that's what it's about. I mean, there's times that we're going to experience something like this again. It's going to happen. We know it is. Change is inevitable. It's going to happen. It's just how you respond. I mean, we could pack it up and we could all go home and we could cry in the corner, right? Or you can get up. I mean, I'll speak from my heart from example, right? When I told you that my products took a 94% hit last year, that's significant. Thankfully, in Q4, so September, October, November, December, I saw sales slowly start to increase. But I didn't stop. No, don't get me wrong. I was frustrated. I was a little disheartened. But what that made me do was, okay, I need to also diversify. Mm-hmm. I can't just say this private label product that I have is going to be the golden horse that I ride into the future. I want it to be this much of my business. And so one of the things I teach, and you've probably heard it before, but when you go into business, especially if you go into like a retail store, have the mentality mile wide, inch deep. Inch deep, mile wide. So you want this, you're this deep in products. You're this wide in your product diversification. So you have 1,000 SKUs, different products, but you only have this many of each. Because if 2 of them have issues, no big deal. You have 998 products that are still selling. So take that mentality in whatever you do and have that mile wide, inch deep mentality, and you'll be successful. And all it is diversification. But it's just a different picture. And some people receive that picture a little bit better when they say, okay, I get what you're saying. So if you started up an Amazon store down in Brazil, mile wide, inch deep. Don't go buy a million units of one product. Don't do that.
Okay.
So thank you, Alessandro. I also believe that success is not a goal that's once you achieve, it's over. It's like small steps of errors and fails, and also steps of success. So it's not a kind of, it's the whole process, right, Professor Dana?
It does. And honestly, for me, and I hope for you, that for success, that finish line, it's constantly moving, right? So success, some of you may picture success and say, I want to earn this much money. I'm successful. Mm-hmm. But then when you get there and you're earning that much money, or your business is earning this much revenue or achieving so many sales, then you're going to say, I want more. That finish line is constantly moving, and it needs to constantly move, because when you run a business, if you become complacent, if you become lazy, right? We're talking about laziness. If you stop innovating and stop being creative, stop changing, mm-hmm. Like I said before, that's when your business starts to die. So that finish line, those goals that you set, they've got to be constantly changing. You achieve one. All right, we hit 100,000 in sales for the year. Great. Now let's do 200,000. Or maybe you do it by monthly. Oh, we hit $1,000 this month in sales. 2,000 next month, 10,000. I have friends that posted in a group, they hit $220,000 in sales this month.
Mm-hmm.
That's phenomenal, right? That's a multi-million-dollar seller right there. And their margins, 84%. Mic drop. That is crazy. No business has an 84%. I'm sorry, not their margin, their return on investment, their ROI was 84%. For every dollar they invested, they got 84 cents back on it. No business has that. But they're doing it. So their goals are constantly changing. They're trying to improve. You can be successful. You can enjoy it. We hit these milestones, but then reassess and make some new ones, right? Keep pushing yourself. That's what's needed to continue to be successful.
You have to go outside your comfort zone all the time, right?
Yes. And for many of us, that comfort zone isn't necessarily selling the next item, but one of the keys to success in running a business is your network. It's your relationships. And a lot of us get spoiled and let's call it lazy because we have this Zoom thing, right? So we can turn our camera off and on, and we don't actually have to sit there and look at each other in the eyes and have a community, talk to each other. We can just turn our cameras off and talk or listen. But when you extend yourself, when you actually make it a mission to go out, meet people, shake hands, look people in the eyes, ask them questions, that's where you also become more successful. You need a network. They will push you as well. And so if you're an introvert, for example, if you're somebody that you're like, nah, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to ask a question. I don't want to turn my camera on. I'm not going to turn my mic on. You've got to get out of that little bubble of yours, right? And that is so hard to do. I'm an introvert. When I get done here, I'm just going to sit in my office for a few minutes and not talk. I'm not going to take a nap, but I'm going to sit here and just, But so many of us are like that. But we've got to get out of that little comfort bubble, that little comfort zone. Go talk to people. Create a network. Go talk to people that are successful. Ask them how they've become successful. Successful people, if you're successful and other successful people, our goal should be to share how we became successful so we can help other people become successful. Don't keep that information. Share it. That's one of my passions in class. Like, I'm an open book in class when it comes to my business. They want to know, I share it, because that's how people learn and grow themselves. You learn from other folks.
So I completely agree with you. So here at Efígie, all the time we say to the students, you have to be different. You have to show yourselves all the time. And situations like this, behaviors like opening your video, your microphone makes you different already. So we have here many students that want to apply abroad. So for the application process in the US, for instance, the portfolio, the things that you have done, it's also that important. It's equally important to your scores and your GPA. So you have to conquer this wish to be different all the time. So I would like to thank you, Professor Dana, for the class. It was really interesting. Actually, we are over our
I apologize.
about half an hour, but what it was because what's really interesting. So thank you, Brad. Thank you also, Juliana. I want to say to the students that to stay in the room because you're gonna do the prize draw right now. So I go back to Portuguese. So thank you everyone. A gente vai fazer fazer o sorteio agora. Fábio, pode abrir. Então, esse sorteio vai ser para os alunos que participaram, né, de pelo menos 3 das 4 aulas da trilha do mês. Então, eles já estão aqui. Mostra todo mundo que participou, Fábio. Passa devagar só para ficar registrado os e-mails. Beleza, Fábio, pode sortear agora. Então foi a Leal Moraes que ganhou. Não sei se ela está aqui hoje, mas a gente vai entrar em contato por e-mail para ela. Então eu queria, mais uma vez agora, agradecer todo mundo pela participação, todo mundo que fez suas perguntas durante toda a trilha. Lembrando que semana que vem a gente não vai ter a Mock Class, a gente vai ter a webinar com a Lara. Em breve a gente vai fazer o convite para todos vocês. E na outra semana a gente já volta com a trilha de business, e vão ser mais 4 aulas muito interessantes. Então, fiquem ligados e obrigado a todo mundo.